4. Okay, Ashley, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs. Cavalier. Kressel.
Here.
Platt.
Here.
Menard.
Here.
Melby.
Here.
Jurdy.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Ashley,
Okay.
did you get Cavalier? I don't know if you
He's
can't.
He is not
He's
able
not.
to attend.
Ah, okay,
He can listen, and
Fair.
he will be.
okay.
He's not able to participate.
correct.
Okay, it's time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address the council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda, may come to the podium, state your first, last name, and address, please. Hearing none from the chambers. Chad, anybody on phone bridge?
Agent logged off.
Thank you. No presentations.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to have the council introduce a most recent employee out at the EDA. Carrie Kirschbaum has hired an administrative assistant, and Carrie's here to introduce that assistant to us.
I'm excited to say Kayme Denault, K-A-Y-M-E, is like Amy with the K.
Carrie, can you turn on your microphone, please, for me?
Just click on your microphone. Thank you.
How's that, better?
Perfect.
Okay, it's
Wonderful. Thank you.
Kayme's like Amy with the K, Denault, and she's been with us a week? A whole week, and we've got her busy, and she's catching on quick. So she's my project coordinator. She'll be working with us on the childcare project as we get into that study, and then also with other economic development and a lot of grants. So I'm excited, so introduce yourself, say hi.
Yes, so as Carrie said, my name's Kayme Denault. Recently moved to Crookston about 3 years ago, and like she said, I started a week ago, and I'm excited to get some of these projects rolling, especially the childcare in Crookston.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, this brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish to add or remove anything from tonight's agenda? Ashley?
Yes, Your Honor. I have placed in front of everyone the omitted Whitseth redesign contract and a resolution confirming the sale of the real property by the City of Crookston to Heidi Christensen. I have also updated the City of Crookston website with the updated council packet to reflect those changes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Tim? Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Henry. Discussion?
As has also been updated on the Facebook as well.
So Facebook is a link to our agenda center. So
perfect.
the agenda center
Wonderful.
is updated, so is the link.
Okay, hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Cavalier? Oh, sorry. Kressel?
Aye.
Clatt?
Aye.
Menard?
Aye.
Melby?
Aye.
Jurdy?
Aye.
Fisher?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Delane. Roll call, please.
Kressel?
Aye.
Clatt?
Aye.
Menard?
Aye.
Melby?
Aye.
Jurdy?
Aye.
Fisher?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We have a public hearing.
Yes, Your Honor. 7.01 is a public hearing on modifying the reinstated Crookston Housing and Economic Development Authority, CHEDA, enabling resolution.
Okay, I'll open this public hearing. Does anyone wish to address council? If so, please come to the podium, state your first and last name as well as your address. Hearing none, I'll close this public hearing. Okay, this brings us to the regular agenda.
Item 8.01 is a resolution to authorize a contract with Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson Incorporated, SEH, with respect to design a 10-unit T-hangar to be located at the Crookston Regional Airport, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I'll make that.
Thank you, Christie. Discussion. Corky, I think you had a little brief on this.
Yes. Recently and over the past year, there's been discussion at the airport about the need for an additional T-hangar. There are 20 individuals at least who have indicated that they would be interested in renting a new T-hanger space. The funding for this will be from a variety of sources. I think there were, in your packet, there were discussions about that. And we would be coordinating funding with other airports. They kind of have a rollover system where each year, airports get a certain amount of money and they do projects. Our airport is up for a project, and other airports in the area will be contributing money to that project. The city of Crookston will have some matching obligations, and without the specifics of the bids, we're not certain what they would be, but we anticipate it would be a minimum of $88,000 and up to $150,000, depending on, but you have that information in your packet. The SEH has done a very good job informing everyone. The Airport Commission has seen the preliminaries about the T-hangers, and they're certainly interested in seeing this project go forward. This is simply allowing us to enter into a contract with SEH to design the T-hanger and its specifics to allow us for bidding.
Okay, further discussion.
So some of this money going to be recouped from the rental of the T-hanger?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you said it was 80K to what again?
88,000 to approximately
150?
150.
Okay.
Some of the monies we did put into the CIP, so you noticed that last year, and then this year when we did the CIPs with you, those funds were put in there, so we matched the 88,000 that we had to come up with to start the project.
Okay.
Brian, what's a CIP?
Capital improvement plan.
Okay, thank you.
We do a 5-year plan for each department, and then the council approves those.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
All right.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 8.02 is a resolution to approve the modeling plan for stormwater study at the Crookston Sports Center, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Delane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Thank you. Discussion. Corky, please.
What this is the actual modeling that we've discussed about the water situation out by the CSC and to the northeast. This is a proposal from Widseth to actually engage in that study, and they've given us a preliminary estimate of approximately $29,000 to do that particular study, and they would commence immediately.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Your Honor, are they going to be notified that what type of project this is to be finalized for? I believe they've done this once before. We talked about it. And he said it was different for agricultural land than for actually a building site. So they do know that we are proposing to put housing on this.
Yes, they're very aware of that.
Because there's a lot of folks that are a little disturbed about doing this about a third time here now.
Yes, they're aware that that is the intent, and they are coordinating with our Public Works and also with the county.
So in the proposal for this, at this time, we're going to protect the city property to a 100-year event. So that's what it's going to be designed to. And then the agricultural land that is east of the city property will be at that same, I think it's a 10 or 20 year. So at face right now, there most likely will have to be a levee installed along the city's edge of the property there to get it to a 100-year protection. So, but that's what this study will tell us. What's all.
Does this address any of the water issues in the adjacent property? I know there was a lot of issues like drafts in between drafts in the sports center.
Yeah, so this is, this is a model of that whole section there. So that everything that's in between the roads there will be looked at and will be modeled to get the water to, if it's gonna stay a field, it'll be modeled to maintain that 10 or 20-year drainage. And then the part that we plan on developing into homes is going to be designed to the 100-year like all our residential is.
So if you put a levee in there, is that going to inhibit you from going further east later on?
It won't keep you from doing it, but it will, the reason that we're doing that is that's kind of the separating line of which direction the water wants to go. So it wants to go south when you get on our north property line, and everything that we don't own north of that wants to kind of go north. So north, it either wants to go north in the far north section, or it wants to head it'll head to the levee and then head to County Ditch 99.
I would just like to see some type of guarantee that if whatever they do, it's done properly and it works properly, because 3 times out.
Why is it that we've done this twice before?
Well, I wasn't in this chair,
Well,
so
we
I
did it
can't
when,
tell you,
the development for, the apartments and drafts. And we started with the frontage road, and we've had issues with overland flooding out there. And then the county redid the road out there, and supposedly that was gonna fix our problem. Well, then you can see what happened last spring again. So,
Well, that's a good question. So you did a water study when the apartments were built out there and drafts, and
I
yet
don't
we
think
We've
there,
never
I don't
done a
quote.
water modeling. We've never done a model is the
No.
problem.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I think what Wayne's, I think there's been conversations of storm being added when they redid the Fisher Avenue Road that was gonna help, and some other conversations, but we haven't truly modeled this quarter yet to really dig in and see what has to be done, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
So the study that was done for when the Fisher Road was done, what happened there? Because wasn't there some water issues after that was done?
There's never truly, this area hasn't been modeled.
There's never been a water study out there.
Okay, so what was it that they did before?
Discussion.
The Fisher Avenue project, like as Brendan said, none of that area has been modeled. But when we did the Fisher Avenue project, we were able to extend some storm sewer further to the east in front of drafts. So we thought, we never said it was gonna solve the problem, but we thought it would help. Because before, that was just ditch, and it was all supposed to drain east to, whatever that ditch number is to the east of 99, and it wasn't going anywhere. It was like we're trying to run water uphill. So we thought if we can get some water, get some storm sewer a little bit further east in front of drafts, at least we wouldn't have to wait for all the snow to melt and for the ditch plugs, the snow plugs to melt. We could maybe start picking up some of that water in the spring and help the situation, but we never said it was gonna solve it.
maybe what you or Brandon could clarify is, what is the difference between what was done and what water modeling is?
Yeah.
Well, water modeling, as Brendan said, now we're gonna basically take a look at it. Which way does the water go? If we're designing it to a 100-year event, how much water does that encompass? And what do we do with it? And before, we've never modeled it. We were just hoping that the ditches would take it away, and obviously that doesn't work very well.
So it was never a formal study taking into consideration all the factors of a modeling?
Correct.
It was more of a estimation or a hope?
Yes.
so what did we pay for 2 times before then?
Well, that was county, wasn't it, this last time?
But as far as I know, Woodseth has never been paid to do any modeling prior to this. So
Okay.
whether the county did something on their own, I guess I can't speak to that.
So you're talking levee out there, I guess that would be in the design works. Would that be just, kind of like what's around our rivers or what? Or is it gonna be something attractive? I mean, if we're looking at a housing development out there.
And this is all digging into the weeds, but I think it was only about the slope, it would have to get higher as it goes to the south, but I think over by, we'll call it Fisher Avenue, it would have to be about 3 feet high, so call it about knee high, and it would gradually decline as it went to the north. We're looking at different options, and that's what the study will tell us, is it makes sense to put a storage pond or to put a pond out there so that the existing storm on Barrett can handle it. Then the pond would fill up. Once the downstream water drained, then the pond would drain, but we don't really know what we need and
Correct.
what's all gonna be entailed until we get the modeling plan done.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Rich, I got one question regarding the proposal. Maybe you can answer this for me. I really don't understand it. It says, the design event for the interior drainage will be selected in conjunction with city staff, but it will be in a range of 5 to 10 year return event. What does that mean?
The frequency of the event, like if basically it's saying, a rain event that happens once every 10 years or once every 20 years. So in other words, if a 5-inch rainfall is the 20-year event, then that's what they're designing it for, like a 5-inch downpour.
Gotcha.
And that typically happens once every 20 years. That's a 20-year event.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel.
Aye.
Platt.
Aye.
Menard.
Aye.
Melby.
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 8.03 is a resolution to approve the modeling plan for storm water study at Ag Innovation Campus, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Christie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Henry. Discussion.
This is similar to what you just discussed, only on the south end of Crookston. This is where the Ag Innovation Campus is. There is some water issue there as well. And this study would be, again, modeling to determine what the extent of that issue is and how we would propose to deal with that particular water issue. It's not as extensive as the one on the Pirate 60, but it is there, and we should be modeling that as well. Because we want that to be developed as well, and we do have interest in that area as well.
Is there,
I think we ought to put that in our back of our heads for the next time we're developing any place around here. It seems like,
Do that first.
you know.
It's kind of like the flat roof problem we have around here. We have a water
Exactly.
problem.
It's no matter where you're at, it's gonna happen.
has there been significant water problems lately in that area?
We did have, last year, we did have an issue to some degree as Ag Innovation Campus was constructing, but with the renter that the city has, we were able to work that out and get that problem addressed so that there was no delay in the construction or no difficulty.
Okay.
But we need a more permanent solution.
Does that one have a price tag on it too?
Yes, that's on the information, I believe about 17,000 if I'm not
17.7.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that.
I got one question on this too. Maybe Rich could answer it. Let's see. Says a portion of the parcel can be drained to the existing storm sewer system located north and east, but the majority of the parcel would need an outlet to the south and or to the west. Now, if you're going an outlet to the west or the south, does that go to Burham Creek?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Now, I heard rumor at one time, I don't know if it's true, that the watershed was questioning whether we could move water from that area to Burham Creek. Does the watershed weigh into that?
I'm sure it would, yeah. I mean, with Blake doing the study, he's pretty familiar with the watersheds, and I'm sure he'll be doing this modeling in conjunction with their input.
So, but are they gonna let us, what happens if they say no? I mean, that's what I'm hearing, a watershed is kind of questioning. I don't think they want the water.
Right, but like the Pirate 60, I guess, you know, we'd probably end up with some kind of a retention pond, which would control the outlet, or control the outflow, you know, so we wouldn't be flooding Burnham Creek with just every drop of water that hits that area. You know, we'd be storing it till the event passes and then slowly releasing it. So that'll probably factor into their decision.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel,
Aye.
Clat,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.04 is a resolution authorizing WIDSEF for the mechanical redesign of the campground bathhouse, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved?
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Henry. Discussion. Corky, please.
What this is, as you may all recall, there was an original design of the bathhouse, and it was rejected because it was gonna be a storm shelter. Then we asked and considered in conjunction with Jake and with Brandon, myself, what are we gonna do with the new bathhouse? So we had plans drawn up for the construction of the structure, differing from the original storm shelter. In addition to that, we also need design for the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing. The individuals who designed the bathhouse don't have that certification and qualification, so we need the redesign of those mechanical, electrical, and plumbing type difficulties. So WIDSEF had proposed to do it for a flat sum. We had further discussions that was not acceptable, so now they have proposed that they do it for not to exceed a sum of $30,000. This is for your consideration. We need those plans and specifications completed so that we can get them done and bring them forward to you at the next council meeting if you approve WIDSEF doing that particular set of specifications and drawings.
Thank you, Corky. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel,
Aye.
Clat,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.05 is a resolution to approve the intermediary relending program, IRP, and mortgage satisfaction on the property owned by Melsha Hospitality Group LLC with respect to document A00677-987, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ashley. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wayne. Thank you. Discussion.
What this is the Melsha's Corporation has repaid the city in full. And what we are trying to do now is to be proactive. If you may recall, sometimes last year we were finding mortgages that had been paid but not satisfied 10, 15, 20 years back. Once we receive notification from our accountant and our finance director, we are going to issue our satisfactions as soon as possible, and this is one of those. They have paid in full, so a satisfaction should be issued.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel,
Aye.
Clat,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.06 is a resolution to approve the rehabilitation loan program and mortgage satisfaction on the property owned by Edward R. and Patricia L. Amiot, husband and wife, with respect to document A00716-197, Your Honor.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Joe, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Delane. Thank you. Discussion.
Identical. They've paid off. We want to give them a satisfaction and be done with it.
Thank you, Corky. Further discussion?
So with regard to these satisfactions, if the property owners don't have them, does that indicate that there's a lien on?
Yes. if-
Okay.
What it is we recorded our mortgage in the recorder's office for the
Yep.
county.
Yep.
That stays there until there's a satisfaction.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel,
Aye.
Clat,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.07 is a resolution authorizing and confirming the sale of real property by the city of Crookston to Heidi Christensen.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll
So
make that.
moved.
That Christie and Tim.
Okay, Christie first and then Tim. Okay?
Thank you. Discussion.
Okay, this is another cleanup item. Originally, this property was sold to Heidi Christensen in 1996. The council or the city did that without the proper resolution authorizing the sale. And now, the second or third transfer down the line, the attorney who examined title for the buyer said, I'm objecting to title because there's no authorization or resolution of the city to have that initial sale done. So we created a resolution validating the prior sale, and the attorney whom I've consulted with said, that's what I'd like, then this does that.
Thank you. Further discussion.
So did the initial council actually agree to sell this property?
They actually transferred it by warranty deed, yes, but they
Okay.
did not have a resolution saying
Okay.
you're authorized, as we are doing
Okay.
in various transactions, but it has been transferred.
It just wasn't formally
It
done.
was not authorized at a council session to make the transfer.
Okay.
This is even before my time.
And you would have picked that up, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Further discussion. Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel,
Aye.
Clat,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.08 is a resolution approving plans and specifications and calling for bids regarding the Ag Innovation Campus area road construction.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Delane. Discussion?
Yes, this is the specifications for the Ag Innovation Campus Road. Those specifications would then become the basis of soliciting bids. So we need your approval of the specifications, and then the bidding process can commence.
Thank you, Corky. Further discussion?
Where would the funding come for this?
This is the grant from the state of Minnesota. I believe a year to 2 years ago, an $895,000 grant was legislated and allowed us to have that money, I believe, on a reimbursement basis. I don't think we have the money in our coffers, but this will go towards that construction.
This is Minnesota Ag Grant? Deed? Oh, okay.
The bonding,
amended to add in the design, and that was done in 80 years ago.
Oh, okay. All right.
that was an amendment because design hadn't been in there, but design is now in. So the total amount we get for design and construction is $895,000.
Okay, great.
Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Kressel,
Aye.
Clat,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, this brings us to reports. Corky?
Busy weeks. We met a number of times with Carrie and Ryan and a representative from Ellers. They offer financial services, and we will be discussing it further, but may very well be bringing a proposal to you from them. We had a meeting with the firefighters regarding negotiations, and those are ongoing. We had a Park and Recreation budget meeting to go over terms and conditions of the budget. Also, we had the airport project meeting, which a number of us attended. We did also meet with the school board and talked about a potential use for Washington School. Quite a good meeting, I might say. We also had discussions with the present lessee of the building for childcare. I'm sure Carrie will talk more about that, but there is an open house a week from tonight. There are 41 spots available, and the staff is ready to go. And I think that the city had a significant part in bringing this to fruition, and people are excited. Also, you should know, we have 80 unfilled needs in Crookston at a minimum. So moving ahead with Washington is real good. I had a meeting with Jason Carlson of Tri-Valley, talking about a number of items, one of which was when will they be moving and what will become of their building. Also, their interest in potentially participating in a solar type plan here in the city. Also, would they be interested in assisting us in the child care venture? Not that the city is running that venture, but just helping us, and they were more than happy to do that. The TAP grant presentation, there is a grant coming out for a transportation alternatives program or project, which Jake, myself, and Carrie will be actually presenting in McIntosh on Thursday. We are asking for $1 million to get multi-use pathways in our city, coordinating with the school, coordinating with businesses to get people to be able to walk or bike or rollerblade or skate on these paths. And we hope that we can get the $1 million, but if we don't, we'll phase it in. Also, we have talked about deed infrastructure grant items, and we just had a meeting today regarding erosion control along Crescent Avenue that Brandon and I attended. So it's been a very, very busy week, as well as putting together this fairly lengthy agenda.
Where is this talk and what time is it at in Fosston that you're going to?
Macintosh, it's
Is it
on
Macintosh?
Thursday at, I believe, 10 o'clock is our presentation time. 11?
They're estimating you will be on
Yes.
11 a.m.
There are 3 other participants. I believe the whole thing starts at 10 and then runs, and we will be on at 11.
Corky, is it my understanding that y'all can apply for this grant year after year,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, we can.
So like you only get a certain portion, you can phase it in by requesting the grant? And is that
Absolutely.
pretty common for cities to do that?
To phase things in,
Well,
or to,
Corky, come on. No, to get the funding year after year.
I can address that. So, yeah, the grant is we can apply year after year, but what they found out is that a lot of cities had applied for grants in the past, and then where they should have been shovel-ready and ready to go. Like this would be in 2027 that the initial stage would begin. However, some of the funding has come back. MnDOT will apply to the US DOT they'll say, we want this much money from Minnesota. Well, then they put the grants out there, but then sometimes these cities have not been ready when it was time for them to go. So right now, they're really working hard to make sure any of us applying, we actually have our ducks in a row and we're ready to actually be able to perform the project. So we can do it every year. We're in good shape. I felt really good after a meeting today with Ryan and with Jake and Corky, so we're in good shape. But then, so I called today, I'd asked them just that same question. I said, we've got another project we're looking at, this one trail, because we're developing more to the east, up by the, and if we develop that 60 acres out at the Pirates, 60 out there, and then those new housing stuff, can we, phase that in next year? And they said yes. So maybe there's $1 million available. There's 4 other projects. If those projects aren't ready, that would probably send more to Crookston because we are ready. But if they're all ready, then we'll have to phase some things in, but we'll just keep applying and
Sure.
hopefully get it done,
So is that similar to like the Red River corridor where if like some of the cities don't end up utilizing the money or whatever, that kind of gets put back into the pot and redistributed?
Yeah, because Minnesota wants to make sure they get all the grant dollars out, because otherwise next year they go to USDOT
Right,
and they're not gonna
and
want
it's
to
not-
give them money.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing.
And there is a match component, and we are in good financial position to meet that match component. Design is not covered by the grant, but we are equally well-positioned to be able to fulfill that, should we get the full grant.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Is that it, Corgi?
That's it.
All right. You've been busy, thank you.
Good job.
We'll start with Darren, anything?
Thank you. Just a couple things real quick. I know I reported last week on a hiring update, however, a lot has transpired since last week. So like I reported last time, we had 4 vacancies. At the police department, we did have 1 officer start today. His name is Nick Fladland. He comes from prior work at Grand Forks Police Department. Has about 4 years' experience, so we're super excited about that. He's working out super well. We also made a final offer to an individual by the name of Corey Rich prior to coming to the CPD. He worked for Kitson County for approximately 2 years. From all fronts, it looks really good. He has made a 2-week notice at his current job, so we're working on a tentative start date with him. I also made a 3rd conditional offer last week to an officer that has 7 years of experience that is excited to come over and work at the Crookston Police Department. We're currently in the background phase of that candidate's application process. So hopefully, maybe by the end of this week, into next week, I can make a final offer on that. So that would bring us down to 1 vacancy out of the 4. And excitingly enough, we currently have 4 applications that we're reviewing for that 4th spot. Out of the 4, 1 applicant has 7 years of experience again. We have 2 of them that have about 2 years and 1 that is brand new, no experience. They're all really good candidates. We're super excited and very fortunate. As many other sounding agencies don't have any applications, we're doing everything right now. It's looking really good. So my goal is to have everyone hired in the next 30 to 60 days and hopefully have everyone completed their training and in their assigned patrol shifts by hopefully 1st to middle of June. So that's something I don't think we've been able to say for a long time, well over a year, probably into a year and a half. So it's really exciting. Happy to report that. And then, as most of you have probably heard or read on CareWex, we had a water main break, or leak, I should say, at the police department. So we first noticed some water pooling in the lowest level, or the 4th level, the basement of the police department. Fortunately, there wasn't any water damage. It wasn't. It was continuing to seep and become larger area of water, but nothing was damaged, and that portion of the building is not finished, and everything is on shelving or above the ground. So fortunately, no property or part of the building was damaged. It was determined that there was a water leak between the building and the curb stop, and then potentially also in the building. It was kind of difficult to detect, I think, a little bit, just because it had been leaking for a little bit. However, we did have to jackhammer through the concrete floor at the police department. 1 in the utility room where the water line comes through and attaches to the meter. And then 1 in the patrol room, just the way that the water line was ran through the police department. We weren't able to feed a new line as we would pull out the new line, so we had to run a new line in the police department. So we did have to jackhammer 1 in the patrol room, which thanks to Chad and Zach and his crew, we moved all the workstations out in the classroom. And while again, thanks to Brandon, Ian and his crew, they did a lot of the manual labor and jackhammering through the floors, exposing the water lines, so we saved significant costs and repair costs there. And we also had to dig up the curb stop in the front lawn of the police department, which is now replaced, and a new water line through the police department wall and up through into the meter. So it's been a thing, but we've already had a contractor back at the police department. We've already filled back in the holes, poured the concrete. That is drying again today, and I'm hopeful. This might be a big statement. By the end of next week, I hope, That'll be done. They gotta continue, they gotta put the floor back in. We have some tiles to be replaced, and then they're gonna build a bulkhead around the water line. So, outside of that's kind of the most two updates I got for you today, so. All right?
Sounds like a busy week.
Yeah, outside everything else, it's been busy, so.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Shane?
Good evening. Yeah, it's been a busy first month and a half down there. First thing I want to do is I want to thank the guys that I'm working with down there. They've made this transition smoother than it probably could have been. So those guys have bucked up, been on board, especially with their shift changing, new partners, stuff like that, the way the schedule got muddled a little bit. Those guys took it in stride and they've ran with it. So I want to commend my staff that has been fantastic working with. I've been tossed in working with a couple building owners and some businesses just on some fire code questions. I've been working with Craig, and him and I have bounced a lot of things back and forth, gotten some answers, worked a lot with the state fire marshals just to make sure everything's kind of isolated. We've got it what it needs to be, so when we give the answers, it's the right answers. We held a Polk County Chiefs meeting, and we had all the Polk County fire chiefs were there, and then the DNR and Polk County Sheriff's Office had representation, and state fire marshals. That was really held just to make sure that we have everybody's contact information, all the resources that need to be utilized, everything like there is going to be current. Obviously, the stuff for the Crookston Fire Department, we've changed, edited, my contact info's on there, stuff like that. But just little things that we just wanted to make sure that we had updated for the year in case something goes and phone calls need to be made. We're able to do that, and we've got everything updated. The sentence to serve, I don't know if anybody's noticed this, but there's a lot of hydrants that got buried in pretty substantial amount of snow. And I had sent an email after talking with Councilman Melby just to get their feeling on it and just to see what they would say if they could give us some assistance. And just a couple days later, I had people coming into the hall and they were going, well, how are these getting cleared out? I had no idea. So long and short of it, I followed up with a phone call today going, hey, some magic happen or what? And yes, the sentence to serve crews have been out in some of the trouble areas, and they have helped clear snow away from a majority of the hydrants. And so I just want to commend them. And there was no follow-up, so I didn't know how it had happened, but it had happened. So I reached out today and I thanked them for taking their time to go out and do this in the weather with what we know as snowpack. It's not easy to get to on a lot of these. And they went through and they made them so there is a pleasant clearing for guys. If we do need to use those hydrants, we're going to be able to access those now.
Nice.
The Weather Service webinars have started for the spring river outlooks. There's been a couple of those now. Nothing right now is jumping off the page. So as those come in, we all know that it's going to end up, it's with the precipitation that we get. It's going to be this late winter snow. It's going to be the early spring precipitation with any rain, stuff like that. And then the biggest thing is going to be that freeze-thaw cycle. Depending on how that all pans out, that's usually what's going to dictate these things anyways. But like I said, we're getting good information off these webinars. It's just helping us plan in, as we're forecasting our stuff based off of what they forecast. And with that, we do have some CERT stuff, our community emergency response teams. That program is going to get a little bit of a revamp this year. I'm working with Bob Maxim right now. We're looking at some point in time here in the next couple of weeks, we will get it out to the public. We'll get it out to these command or wards and to your CERT members. We're going to try and have what we're going to call like a full refresher. So it's not going to be just sitting down at the station and kind of talking through things. We're going to actually try to get hands-on again. It is going to probably take a couple of nights. So we'll see what we can get that works with staffing for training, and we'll get that to you guys right away. And we are going to get that out, and we're going to try and get everybody back through. At this time, we are going to focus on the high water stuff. Just it's going to be that time of year, a little bit more pertinent right now. But we're going to get that broadcast, and I'll make sure I get you guys those messages on that, and we'll just go from there. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Brian, anything tonight?
Kind of like what Corky said, we did have a meeting with Ellers, a financial group. I did go down to their seminar that was down in the cities last week. It kind of touched on bonds and bonding for cities. It talked about TIF districts and how to utilize those. And it also talked about different things that we need to look at as a city as far as our fund policy, putting together a 5 to 10 year financial plan for the city and having those things in place and how that helps us progress forward with the needs of the city and the things that we want to see grow and do. Working towards trying to close out the year, so that's why you don't have a financial statement yet in front of you, because we take until March to make sure we have all the things in there before we can close those out for you. Otherwise, just attending meetings with Carrie and looking at grants and seeing what we can grab out there.
Thanks, Ryan. Chad, anything tonight?
Just a quick IT update, different things that we've been working on across city departments. With the police department, we assisted Darren and his staff in getting the new door control system and the access set up for all of the officers and individuals that'll use that system to come and go out of the police department. As he mentioned, we assisted with moving the workstations around due to the water main break. At the fire department, we're assisting with recovery of the fire department's Facebook account and then training new staff as to how to update the city website and their section of the page. For the IT in general, we have our new recovery funds equipment racked and stacked, as they say. We have our first implementation meeting on February 28th, and it is go from there in bringing the new systems online. And a new day will dawn with the back-end systems in the city of Crookston. At the sports center, we did a walkthrough with Jake and his staff to look at replacement of the existing camera system with the same system that was put in by Garden Valley at the police department. And we have a quote coming from them to take a look at the Oak Court building as well for that system out there. That's a general update for you.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Brandon?
For the most part, we've just been working on getting some of the roads scraped down with the warmer weather. So it's been pretty warm, so we've had the loaders going around behind the graders, cleaning the driveway aprons behind, so it's a little bit slower. And then we're hauling snow in the morning. Casey Delaney was a street shop employee for 5 years. We just hired him back, so he came back. So that's nice to get Casey back with some experience. Other than that, I'm just kind of getting my feet back underneath me after being gone on vacation, trying to get caught up from all the emails and whatnot. So the water guys did a good job at taking care of the PD. So.
Thanks,
Questions?
Brandon.
Thank you.
It's nice to know you can go away and come back knowing things are under control.
Carrie? You moved too fast, I was gonna have you go first, but you scooted back over to your chair.
That's okay. Yeah, we're, Oak Court is coming along. I'm excited to talk with some of you about getting more of a housing. We talked about getting a housing committee there just to work specifically with them. We had Super Bowl Sunday, we had popcorn and little bitty hot dogs, and they had, we bought a new, like a sofa and love seat, and it's just getting nicer and nicer over there. So now that we've finally got some staff, so Tim Prober's over there now, and he's half housing and then he's half working with Bill. So that's coming along. We got the hallways painted, so we're starting to move on some of that. The residents are really, like, when you come in, they're happy. So that's just really good to see. I know everybody wants to see that happen. Some will never be happy, but they're happier than they were when I started here 5 months ago. A good news, I want to just do a shout out to Teresa. She, we had our water heater, I think some of you would remember that our water heater had broke. And it was like a $28,000 or $26,000 item. And it was not on the, it was not where it was, it was nothing to say, oh, good, we already have money. So she actually has been working now with housing, so I think we're going to be able to get that money recouped and put back into our, she really has worked hard on that. So I really appreciate her efforts towards that and everybody else's efforts. Kami coming on has been fantastic, and so we're looking forward to I'm putting her through some training. We're looking forward to learning like all of the loans that we do have available and getting some brochures so the community will know more. Then we do have the open house will be Monday night finally, right, for the childcare. So we're excited. So thank you so much for that support for Stephanie and her community. And yeah, we've been working on a lot of grants and the TAP grants and trails, and we've got a couple others. So thanks to Brandon and thanks to the IT department and everybody else who's been working with us to help us get back on track with everything. And we were with Deed on a call today and talking about the industrial park, and there's some other communities, businesses that have contacted me maybe to be, looking at that property. So I think the quicker we can get that up to speed and get it shovel ready, the better. And there's some deed grants out there possibly that we can get that we don't have to put a match on. So we had that conversation today too. So it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed working with everybody, but I need more sleep.
Thanks, Carrie.
Any questions on anything? I'm sorry. We're good? Okay.
Thank you. Ashley, you got
Yeah.
something to add tonight?
Just remember, tomorrow is go out and vote for the school referendum, February 14th. The polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. And it's at one location at St. Paul's Lutheran Church.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. We'll start with Henry tonight. Anything?
No, nothing for me.
Okay, thank you. Christie?
Nothing for me.
See what happens when you go on vacation?
Kinda nice.
Thanks, Christie. Wayne?
Well, I just wanted to notice too that the streets are improving quite a bit in town. It's very nice. Hope they get to Woodland soon. That's a buckboard. Corky, some of the things that you told us when we were working with some of these, the contracts with the labor unions and such, listening to Chief tonight here that we're getting officers that have experience coming back or applying and filling the spots, I think the strategy is working. So just, I want you to know that pretty impressive. I mean, everything that you said we were gonna do is starting to happen. And, let's see, are we going to have a strategic planning meeting one of these?
I am, my plan is, it seems like we keep talking about stuff from 5 years, 10 years ago. So after the League of Minnesota training, there's a few of us going. I thought between Corky and I and Carrie, we'd take 1 week. I would bring in 2 council members each night, and we'd sit down and see what Carrie's ideas are. Talk about what we need to get in for infrastructure, shovel-ready to attract whatever we need to do. I think we can have a better conversation that way, bringing 2 council members in at a time, sitting down with Corky and Carrie and I.
My concern was that I thought it was a time to sit down and critique the way we're going as a whole council and as our new department heads and such things like that, that you can sit down and discuss. Setting Henry and Tim, sitting them down and getting questions from them, seeing which direction we're going. Your projects that you're talking about, Dale, that's good, and I mean, that's fine. But just some of the day-to-day stuff, or whose job is it, and learning not to micromanage and to do different things. It'd be nice just to sit down and get a little bit of a
101?
Commitment with the whole crew here of what direction we're going and how we're gonna get there.
Well, we could do it, have a Ways and Means. Have it on a Ways and Means one night.
Are you afraid to have it on a Saturday morning or something? I mean, it's gonna take more than an hour. And what we used to do is then you could sit in, you could bring in each one of the department heads, and they can talk to us and give us their feedback, and then we can let them know if we're hearing any feedback from others. I mean, it's a two-way street, and I just think it takes more than, you know, and if you do it the other way and do it every night at a Ways and Means, it's gonna be the middle of July before you get to everybody.
Well, I thought also the Ways and Means was also to discuss certain items as
a work
financial
session.
type of stuff, so I thought we got away from just having a Ways and Means for open discussion.
Well, Ways and Means, I feel is considered a work session too.
Well, that's changed then from,
True.
so I mean, we need to, at one point in time, since I've been on the council, it was not a work session anymore, it was just a session to discuss financial
Budgets and.
budget,
Financial
yes.
matter. I think this is something that we can talk about. I mean, I don't think there's,
I know what.
that they aren't mutually exclusive, what's being
No.
suggested.
No, right after I got on the council, I agree with Wayne. That was very informational for me as somebody just coming on to sit down on that Saturday and hear a whole realm of things and try to help wrap your head around it. I think for the two new people too, it'd be great for them to sit and discuss and this helps you figure out what direction people
Well,
are going.
the other thing, I do remember that meeting, and I mean, it was a lot of good information in there. A plethora of stuff was
Nicely
discussed, but nothing happened. Nothing happened from
Right.
any of it. I mean, so it was I'm all for putting in the work and going there and having the meeting, but if we're just gonna talk,
Right.
Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from. It seems like we've had strategy sessions over the last few years, and it seems like we're talking about the same stuff last year that we talked about 5 years ago.
Well, I think that the difference in where the direction needs to go is to actually like pick out the 3 or 4 things that are most important and to put some like game plan together as to what our next steps are versus just talking about we should really do something about it.
maybe you should get some input from the council about items that we'd really like to discuss in a strategy session, and then
So,
maybe pick a few of those, maybe not all of them. I mean, I know one issue that I'd sure like to get figured out here is our garbage situation in this community. So that would be like one item I want to discuss, but maybe some other council people have some other high priority items that they would like to discuss.
I guess we can figure out a game plan with that, but I know for starters, though, I think it's good to, what I want to do with the 2 council members, with a couple department heads, and I think, to bring anything to Crookston, we need to have some projects shovel-ready. That's my thought. See where Carrie's coming from, see what her ideas are. Maybe she's spinning a few ideas. Council members may have some input on that piece. We can still do a strategy session, but I would really like to do this route first. I mean, I just feel that we need to start spending a little bit of money. I mean, I'm not saying get carried away, see what the council is comfortable with, but without any shovel-ready projects, I guess our job as a council is infrastructure. So if we.
Maybe one of these sessions could be with Ryan now, explaining TIF a little bit more, explaining deed, explaining bonding procedures, so that we can go ahead and do that. You gotta remember too, though, Dale, in these strategy sessions we had, one of the big topics was daycare. And it's taken quite a while, but it sounds like something promising is happening shortly here. So it's not that we can't reach that. I mean, you just gotta keep plugging away on them, and if you just leave them sit on the shelf, you're never gonna do anything. I just would like to have a kind of an input from everybody. Henry and Tim might come with some new things that they've heard over the years and let us in on those secrets, or different folks that are gonna talk to them in their wards or in the city or whatever, and just to get a different outlook and just to sit down. We're not picking on anybody, we're not doing that. It's just a matter of getting squared away, I think.
I think we can do that, and I think we can combine what you're all saying. And I know Dale has articulated to me that he'd like to have these two council people come in at a time, not long sessions, but I think what you're talking about, both of you, is bringing the ideas that you have, let's get them down, and then come back together as a big group on a Saturday or whatever day it is, and those can come out. I mean, I think we can do that as long as you all are a little bit flexible, where if I say, well, we're gonna pair, Tim with you, Delane, get you in, one with experience, one not, Wayne, maybe you with Henry, just get your ideas and then all come back together. We can do that.
You can do both, but I wanna start with a couple council members first, and then right afterwards, we'll set a date for a strategy session.
And let's not call it strategy, we're not talking about cheetah anymore. Let's talk about a working session. Let's talk about group ideas. We don't need to use strategy because that means it's gonna sit on the shelf.
I think that whatever we do, and I don't think it should just be a collection of ideas of the council, but also of the department heads and those who are, really kind of boots on the ground. But I think that we should identify, and whether this is something that you collect with department heads, is your 4 or 5 priorities in the next 5 years, and then we need to decide on what next steps are. And I think that that helps us from keeping it off the shelf by actually having action items for us to continue forward. And I think we should be keeping a pulse on that within the next 6 months, the next year, to make sure that we're going in the correct direction.
And that's what's happened with child care, quite frankly.
Yes.
I don't know how many of you remember, but it was about a year ago that Amy and I sat here and said, this has got to be something we're pinpointing. And we've been doing that, but it takes that time. And I agree, if we can get 2 or 3 items that there's a consensus, this has got to be priority. I think you've got a group of department heads and you as
Yeah, and
council
I think what
members.
Chrissy is saying is, this is also a time, I think, for department heads to be proactive and saying, hey, this is something we need to get done here over the next 5 or 10 years. We need to get it on the radar.
And they would be
Because
part of that session.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think that any decisions that we're making in the next year, or the next 3 years, next 5 years, all should be based off of what our priorities are, what we're seeing, what the needs are, and not just willy-nilly all over the place, right? If we're able to identify what the needs are, then those are the priorities and those are the things that we should be working on and working forward, right? And what we should be voting on and what we should be having the discussions
It seems like,
about.
since I got on the council, we've been really reactive on a lot of stuff that happens to us instead of proactive and trying to figure out what we can do for some of these items before stuff actually happens. So that's where the department heads come in, and I wanna hear from them guys, and, cause they know, I mean, when something big happens and they say, well, yeah, I've been talking about that for the last 5 years, and now here it is.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
We will move.
As one of the newer people on the council, does the city council or the city have a 5-year plan? Do we have a strategic 5-year plan?
Well, we got our capital improvements,
There is a comprehensive plan that was
Plan.
last done in 2016, I believe.
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of action happening behind the scenes here. We are updating our housing study currently, and that's almost back up to date, so we'll understand what needs are out there for housing. Because if we're looking at any type of community development, we've got to have childcare, we have to have housing, we have to have our workforce, and we have to have our infrastructure. And we need our businesses to be made whole with their staff, and then we need people to come and buy their goods. So right now, there's a lot of initiatives that are coming down new because we have a new Congress and they're lined up with our governor. So the initiatives, we can have all the best ideas, but we need to look at where the funding is. So what we've been doing, me, Corky, Ryan, all of us together looking at the different things is seeing where is the money coming, what grants are out there, so that we're not just spending money on something and we're paying 100%. We're trying to identify grants as they come in and then to bring them back up to, well, usually I talk to Corky or Ryan, or we talked with departments, like today we talked about infrastructure at the industrial park. So we're trying to find what money's there and what are our priorities, and then So I think that if our department heads know what they want, then we can start looking at what's coming through. That's why Kami was hired, was to help us to look at all the different initiatives that are coming through. So she's looking, I'm having her on different websites like DEED, USDA. DEED is your Department of Economic and Employment Development, Minnesota Department of Ag. So she'll start looking for those grants to see when they come in. She's going to have a log of when they're due, and then we'll go to the different departments and say, are you interested in this? Is this something that we need? And then the plan, like the 5-year plan, we have our CIP, but our comprehensive plan is out of date, and Corky has told me to contact the company that did our last comprehensive plan because it's 5 years, so 7 years, so we're overdue, a couple years. We'll get that back up to date, and that will tell the priorities, not just of the council and department heads, but of the community. Because that'll have multiple, like 4 community meetings. So we've got a lot of stuff in motion, but for me, as being out with EDA and the housing, I would love to have a conversation with you guys to hear what your hearts are, and then do a big meeting. But if I understand what your initiatives are, like I've had a lot of conversations with Dawn, I'm getting really involved with the downtown groups and that type of stuff to help them. So there's different projects that are out there. So if you can help me understand that, then do a strategic thing, that'd be great. But then at least I'll know what money we're supposed to be looking for when the EDA is looking for money.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. I think it's important too, whatever vehicle we decide to use to come together and share ideas, that we as council members have an opportunity to identify ourselves as champions for certain projects. So for example, I have a passion for working with housing. So, Carrie and I have been talking about, some opportunities to have that housing aspect evolve. And Delane may have, some passion with regards to certain projects that are tender for his heart. So I think if we can identify how we can be champions for some of these initiatives, that it can help, help drive us forward.
Thank you.
That's all I got, Mayor.
No, good discussion. It's good discussion.
That's all you have?
We're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Tim, anything?
So, speaking of the League of Cities, of Minnesota Cities, I am going to the training, and for anybody else who's signing up to go, we have those online courses that we have to do prior, and it's all paid for. Don't try and sign up for an individual course like I tried. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some collaboration and meeting people. Yeah, it'll be fun. I am being recognized as a new council member in the community. People are stopping me in the grocery stores, and I'm getting calls, mostly within business hours. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Delane?
No, the only thing I had to say is I'm not going to be able to attend next Tuesday's CHEETA meeting, so since we haven't had election of officers, I'm not sure who's going to be running that for this year. Christie was the VP, but she's no longer on the, so.
Board.
What time's the?
7 a.m.
I'll
Okay.
go.
I'll be there.
I at least can start it out and they can have election of officers and we can go,
Okay,
if you're good with that.
yeah.
Because I'm ex officio just by my position, so I'll go.
Is that it, Delane?
That's all I have.
All right, thanks for the input or the update.
You bet.
I'd be looking for you and you wouldn't be there. Joe, anything?
Oh, we had our CVB meeting last week, and we're doing a lot of discussion on marketing, how to market Crookston in the proper way. We have some, we have money set aside in our budget for that. We met with KVLY, who gave a very good presentation, and we want to get going with this sooner than later. We know we want to start marketing Crookston in the best way possible to get people to come and visit our town and know what we have to offer. That's it.
Thank you. Just a couple things here. I'd like to thank Bro Chevrolet for their donation to Crookston Park and Recreation Youth Sports. And also Crookston Valley Co-op and Proceed for their donation to the fire department. It's been said here, remember the open house on February 20th for the daycare center. Ashley mentioned, remember to vote tomorrow, and it's a holiday too, so there's no reason not to get there.
Yeah.
Everybody's off. Ashley mentioned vote tomorrow, and also, sounds like we could get a little nasty winds coming in, so keep an eye on that. And I'd also like to, thoughts and prayers, condolences to the Ray Eklund family. He was a fixture down here for many, many years, so that's all I got. Before we adjourn, we have a Ways and Means meeting tonight. So nothing else become before council. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Got one item on it tonight, open agenda, street assessment discussion. Let's start with Brandon.
Will they let Ryan tell you where we're getting the funds? I can do that first.
Okay.
If you look at the colored section on there, you'll see that the LGA funding, that's something that comes every year, and it was 3.8% of what our LGA dollars that come in have been allocated always to improvements. And then each year, as far as the MnDOT aid, that is something that Rich takes care of for us. Is it every 3 years there's a federal project? Every 4? Okay. And we're just coming off of one of those projects. The enterprise funds that you see listed, they both have large reserves, which is helpful for doing this. But then in our 227, which is our improvement account, that's where we hold money that comes in. And right now we are sitting with a reserve, was it the 262,000? Okay, yeah, so that's what's currently in that reserve account now, but we will be getting our LGA dollars and all that stuff in throughout this year for that account. Any questions on the money side of this?
Don, if you can hear me, I did email this to you if you want to see all this information, so. All right, so I guess, long story short, our street assessment resolution stated in 19 that we would reevaluate the assessment portion and decide whether we wanted to change it or not. So that's the discussion that we're here having today. So currently, a reconstruction, we assess $40 per frontage foot. On a partial mill overlay, it's 15, and on a full mill overlay, it's $20 per frontage foot. And then, so if you go to my breakdown on the Excel spreadsheet, our current, at last year, about 11% of the street improvements were assessed to the adjacent property. So that was $40 at that point. If we wanted to keep that current 11%, we would have to increase it to that $45 per foot. So if we were to increase the assessment to 20% of the overall cost of the street improvements, it would be about $82 per foot. And then if you follow down, so the top is just showing what we would bring in assessments for each. So Houston Avenue, the 800 feet, we would bring in approximately $131,622 on a 20% assessment, and so forth on down. So the total assessment at 20% would bring in $375.98. That alley portion for the $38,000, that is not a legal alley, so you can't really assess that. So if we were to do that, we would just have to pay that out of the city funds. And then, so with the LGA, the MnDOT aid, the water department, I took on Alexander Street and Houston Avenue, half the road will be removed due to the water main replacement. So me and Ryan and Corky kind of agreed that it would be appropriate to use water funds for half the road reconstruction to put it back at the end of the day. There's $133,340 worth of sewer, whether it's storm sewer replacement or catch relocations for the street improvements, that would come out of the sewer fund. So the total in yellow is what I would consider, I'll call it revenue for the street improvement. And the 227 reserve number is what we would have to pull. So if we did a 20% assessment with the current projects and the current estimated costs that we just got from WIDSES, we would have to pull $503,894 from reserves to fund if we did a 20% assessment. If we did a 30% assessment, we'd have to pull $316,345 from reserves. If we did a 40% assessment, we'd have to pull $128,796. And I talked to Pat about the current resolution that was created. At that time, they were trying to maintain about 30% of the street improvements being assessed. So, you know, with inflation, I didn't go back to verify that that was the case 3 years ago, but that was the goal back then. We get about, you know, it depends on, we get reimbursed for state aid roads. So if we have Elm Street is a state aid road between, I think it's like 4th and Central. So if we do some state aid roads, we get on average probably about $300,000 in reimbursement from state aid roads over year to year. This year, unfortunately, none of these roads are state aid, so next year we won't get any reimbursement from that. But when we do state aid, that'll go back into the 227. So, in my opinion, that the 30% assessment would keep us pretty black because of that state aid funding coming back in. Yes, we had to pull $300,000 from reserves this year, but in the coming years, it should. There, underneath in the red there was discussion on putting base charge on a water bill. So if you kept your 11% assessment and you wanted to do a base on the bill, it would have to be $19.63 a month to make up you could do a 376. And then, you know, we do the annual property tax for our sidewalks. $50. I guess it's not really relevant, but if we were to want to put a property on the property tax as a one-time charge, it would have to be for the current assessment to make up the 672, it would have to be that 203.85. If you wanted to split it 50-50 with a base on the water and a property tax, you know, with the street improvements, it all depends on, you know, I go back and forth on who's the most appropriate. You know, the property owners, at the end of the day, if they get a new street in front of their house and they sell their house, they're probably getting the most benefit out of the street, even if, you know, if it's a rental. But if, you know, if you put it on the water bill, typically the tenant's gonna have to pay that base fee on the water bill. So is it most appropriate to have the tenant that's living in the home that's, you know, using it to pay 100% of the street improvement? I guess I don't feel it is, but that's up for you guys to decide. So that's how, those are the few different options on funding the street improvements. On the bottom left-hand corner there, those are the averages for 22s. You know, it costs us about $675 a foot to reconstruct in 2022. The 2-inch overlay was $115 a foot, and the full overlay was $245.
So we're discussing what we want the assessment to be to the property owner. Is that what we're discussing
Yes.
here today?
Yeah,
And right now, it's 11%?
yeah, well, yes, it was 11% last year at $40, but if you did $40 now, it would be 10 or 9% probably of the overall.
So in the past, there was, they wanted to try to keep it at 30% for the property owner?
That was what Pat told me, is what his goal was.
So there was a resolution or something, why, if it was set at 30% at one time, why?
It was set at $40 a foot, which he had back equated to try and maintain the 30%.
So instead of, so then it was a dollar amount rather than a percent.
Correct.
So to keep up with the times, instead of going with a dollar amount, would it make more sense to go with a percent always, and then? kinda-
That's what I would like to do, because then you don't have to keep chasing your tail every year. You know, you can, it's a little bit more work for Ashley and I, but our system's set up, you know, to where Ashley sends out the notices, we'll get the engineer's estimate from, Rich, and then we can send out, you know, it'll be 30%, and then it'll be, we'll still have to take the frontage foot into consideration, just so it's equally distributed. If you have a 400-foot lot, or you have a 50, you know, most lots down in the Woods Edition are 50. Some of the newer editions have 100-foot lots. So, but you know, it'll be, you know, the goal will be to assess 30% of the overall improvements, and then equally distribute it off of frontage for all the properties that benefit the project. So right now, that's defined as everybody that is adjacent to the property, and everybody for a half a block in between. So as you make the corner and you go a half a block to the next street, those, they're assessed at a lower rate, but they are assessed still because the properties are benefited by the street improvements. So, you know, I was looking at East Grand Forks's street improvements a little bit, and other communities around, and it's pretty typical to, it's more typical to have a base of 30% rather than just a 40-foot per frontage.
Because over time, with inflation and stuff, that 40, that dollar amount may not be anything to what you need to get to, right?
Well, and we saw it this year. I mean, year to year, it can really,
Right.
it can really fluctuate. So, you know, in the off chance it goes down,
So then what needs to happen? We need to have a council vote to set it at a percent of what this body decides, or?
Yes, this is the presently existing resolution. What would come out of this group would be a consensus, and then, yes, the council would have to pass a resolution stating how it wanted to assess property, percentage or dollar amount.
Okay. So then, I remember Wayne saying something a while ago, and I just kind of, does it, people with corner lots, Wayne, did you say something that there wasn't really something, a rule that was followed per se, I guess, if it was on a corner lot, and didn't you say in the past,
They go by so much on your front footage, and then you pay a percentage of your side lot. Whether it was 50% or whatever of the length of what the side lot is. So if you had 100-foot this way, you'd pay for 100-foot here. If it's another 100-foot this way, you'd pay for 50.
I know like mine, I'm dead center in a block. So when this side street gets done, I get assessed for that half. And then if the other side street gets done, I get assessed for that half. So I mean, it's kind of the,
How is that?
I'm in the dead center of the block, so like he said, you go a half a block. When he has an assessment on, say, this side street, you go a half a block, it's a lower rate, but I get assessed because my lot's dead center of the block.
yeah.
So I've gotten assessed for each side street now so far since I've lived there.
Oh, just on the side street you're talking, not your front, okay.
Brendan, go back, can you go back and tell me though, like, are you proposing that we do the 30% or that we attach it to the water bill or property tax?
I think if we just go to the 30% and, I think it'll support itself without the property tax and water base, just with the MnDOT aid coming in.
So this proposal down here really isn't.
So we either pull from reserves, or if you guys don't want to pull from reserves, then we could put a base on the water or the taxes is where I was going with that.
Okay, but if we did the 30% between this and the MnDOT monies, that should cover us?
Me and Ryan are pretty comfortable with that. You know, there's years that we've brought in 600,000, there's years that we've brought in 150. So we're hoping it'll ride down the middle there.
Okay.
So I kind of agree with what you said, Brandon, about the water bill portion of it. I mean, if you're a renter, it's really, you're paying that as a renter, and you're not really, it's not helping you if you, like you said, if you do a street improvement project in front of the building and you're paying the water bill, that's helping the person that owns it, right? Not really the person paying the water bill.
Do you drive on it?
Yeah?
Are you using the road? Do you want the ambulance to have access?
But what Brandon is saying, it increases the value of that property probably by doing that road. So,
I don't believe that they should have to pay the full price in it, but I think they need to have a stake in it because they're using the road, so I
Yeah,
don't know if
there's
that,
utilization.
if it's a 50-50 split or whatever would come of it, I don't believe they should pay the full mark, just like you're saying, but I believe they should have to pay some because they're the ones using that road on a daily basis.
But
yeah,
are you,
that makes sense.
am I understanding this right, that currently it's at 11% and you got $45?
Currently, it's at 40.
That's what I thought, 40, but you got 45 here.
That's because if
the
we were
11%.
to maintain the current
Okay.
11%, it would have
that'd
to
be
go up to
45.
45.
And you're wanting to go to 30%, which is gonna take you to 123 a foot?
Yes.
I can't get behind that, I don't know.
Well, then what
I understand they're
happens,
gonna go
Wayne, I
up.
mean, then what's the point of us assessing anything? Just have it come out of the, I mean, nobody gets assessed and just pay the, I mean, it comes out of the city taxes and basically, right? Everybody pays then for somebody's street getting done, right?
Well, that's kind of what we've gone to, because is it right for you to have to pay $14,000 in front of your house? And I live down the block from you and they're not gonna do mine, and I don't have to pay anything. You know, so they kind of, what we were trying to get at was a blend of Minnesota, you know, the state aid roads, a percentage of paying on your house or property taxes or your estimate, and then the rest of it on a consensus from the city because everybody uses it.
So
You know,
I
because if
mean,
you're on a state aid road, you can get yours done for $0, and I live across the street or down the street and I gotta pay mine. We said, why don't we take all the state aid money and kind of pool it together so that everybody gets benefit from that?
So in essence, Wayne, are you saying that we should consider a completely different way of assessing than what's being presented?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just can't see it going up that huge of amount. You know, going from 40 to 123 is quite a bump. I mean, I know it went up double, so that would put you at from 40 to 80, which would be doubling it for you. And you could understand that, but now you're gonna double, or now you're gonna hit it again with that? Another
So
25,
then,
that's
what
tough.
you're saying then, basically, and I mean, I'm open for that discussion, I mean, so we set everybody's assessment at X, and we just have to be comfortable enough to, when we set our, levy each year, to cover whatever the shortfall is, so then we're back to the discussion of, okay, we gotta have a huge levy because we had a lot of street street projects this year, we only assess people X. Where's the money come from?
But that's, I think the way Wayne's explaining it too, is this makes most sense in using of reserve money, because it's benefiting the whole city as a whole. If we do it the way he's talking, you know, everybody is,
And you take your state aid money and you put that in a pool that's spread out over our projects. The trouble you're gonna have, and you guys haven't seen this yet, is when you tell them it's gonna cost them $123 a running foot, and they've got 100 feet in front of their house, and they're gonna be coming and standing on top of the chairs and the tables and saying, are you nuts? You know, we don't want that. Our road is fine, our road is okay. When we went to this other, it was like, hey, when you gonna do our road? You know, and we did a bunch of roads on different ends of town, and now when it's time down here to start doing it in the Woods Edition or whatever, you're gonna bump it all up. I mean, that's.
I hear you, and I'm on board with what you're saying, but I'm still foggy on is how do we get the money? Where does the money come from if to get it to 30% and it's supposed to be whatever, and now we're still charging them 11? Where's the extra money gonna come from then? I mean, it's gonna have to come from all the taxpayers of Crookston.
I'm just saying there's gotta be a little bit more equity in between there. Do you have to go up just on the folks that have got the road in front of their house that they're paying for it now? Because in front of my house, I just paid 40. In front of your house, you're gonna pay 123.
But times do change.
I know,
things
and
go
I'm
up.
saying, I could see it to double, I mean, whatever, the 40, you know, going from $40 to 80, and that's a sizable jump. But is there a way that we can figure it out to take care of that in between stuff? And the other thing is going down these roads that he's got marked off is, I mean, anybody go look at these roads where they're at up there? I think they're in Joe, are they in your ward?
I have one, yes.
You know, most of them. I mean, there's Guthrie Street and Euclid Avenue. There's 5 houses total facing those roads. So who's gonna be paying for them? Is it all assessed on a side tax? You know, now you're not even fixing the street in front of my house. It's the side I come in and use my garage. And, you know.
There's actually only 2, and then the other ones, if you look at where their garages are, if that's their front of their house, you're getting less of a portion on that half a block each way, like I
Right.
just explained with myself.
So I mean, I don't know that whole process is going to work, because none of those houses face the street that you're fixing other than 5, as far as what
And-
I've counted.
Again, like I said, I hear, and I agree with what you're saying. I wish there's a better way, but I think what happens in the past, and when we've done this stuff, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, we've kept the numbers low on these assessments. But then what happens when we come to do our city budgets, all the departments are cutting because we need money to
You're essentially saying that at that point to set the budget, all of the taxpayers of the city will be paying a portion of that.
right. So
And
then,
that's something
but
you'd have to
what we
be
can't do, then the departments come to us and say, this is what we need for our budgets, and then when it comes to set the levy, okay, the levy's gotta be this, well, then everybody said, no, we can't have that, we gotta, you know, so that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm fine with having a discussion of saying, okay, it's too much for any single individual person living along that street, that's a huge bill that maybe the whole city should have to participate in, but then we can't balk at raising the levy or whatever we have to do to get that money to keep us whole.
Or you'd have to be able to explain as a
Yes.
component of the budget, look, fully, just pick a number, fully 6% of this levy increase is because we did the streets, and you're all paying for it. And there's some sense to that,
Yeah.
because you can all use any street you want.
Right.
Doesn't mean you do, but that's the rationale that could be used to
And
explain.
like I said, and I can support that, but then we have to keep that in mind when during the budget process. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be very conscious of cutting these departments of what they need all the time, because when it comes to our budgets, those are hard discussions, so we need
I
to
don't
keep our
think that,
city.
you know, we just increased by 15%, right, or 15,
18.15.
18.1. That's the base next year.
Yeah,
So you've already got that is in there. So, I mean, it's not like we cheesed out down here and we were still trying to catch up. We caught up and now we should be moving forward.
okay,
And just, in my thought though, is to try and make this a little more, bit more user-friendly. Because now you jacked me up by 18%, and now you're gonna take and charge me 3 times what you charged him for his road. You know, now, how do you
but that's
plan to
always
get
gonna be
that?
the case. You can say, well, geez, Joe Blow, he paid this 15 years ago. Well, today is a different time and we're a different,
And I understand that, you know, and it's gonna bounce.
yeah.
But to me, that bouncing that high, I remember when the last time they did it at $110, and they were down here in droves, you know, and then, I don't know, you're just,
No,
if you want roads, you're gonna have to pay for them.
I agree
It's
with
just
what
how
you're
do we
saying,
wanna do
but
it?
we
You know?
can't.
Do we wanna do it as a community and push in and get the roads done? At the same time, you know, we didn't get someone that was cheaper and now they're gonna get beat up again. I mean, I got a text today from somebody.
I also wanted to clarify too that this is spread over like a 10-year, because how our
Right.
amounts are separated.
Right.
So it's not just an automatic one time.
But I can certainly be on board with the discussion of not increasing it so much, but being okay with the whole city being on the hook for it as well. I mean,
Well, there was even at some point discussion about the potentiality of charging everybody in the city on their water bill for streets, because you all can use them. You don't have to, but you can. That's a discussion. The other extreme of that is you charge the landowner the whole thing, or a greater percentage. And it's your responsibility and duty and honor, if you will, to make a decision about how you want to do that going forward.
So that's why I say, if you take that certain percentage that you pay an extra, because it is in your addition or it's in front of your house, you're gonna pay that extra, but then the rest of the community kicks in to finish that off. Because everybody uses it, you know,
yeah,
and
I mean, I can get on board with that.
And an easier way, as Brandon has pointed out, is if you set it at 30% or 25%, it just goes as costs go up. You don't have this discussion
Right.
each time.
So we set the percent and then,
Then how it's paid after that.
yeah, so we have to, how do we break it out then? And Brandon comes to us and said, okay, guys, when we're doing the budget, we assessed everybody, say we don't go to 30%, we just say 11%. So now we're in a hole, this amount of money. We need to get this amount of money this year or to get us to pay. So then how do we put that money back in? I mean, are we just gonna, whatever that money is that just gonna say all that money is gonna all be part of the levy that we're gonna increase to cover that?
But see, there again, like you said, it's not paid in 1 year. And next year, when you've got state aid roads, you can kick that in and still charge the guys that are on state aid
Still,
roads
it's-
the same, because they wouldn't have otherwise got billed for this,
You gotta build it all. Yeah, I got you.
you know? If I'm on a state aid road, I don't pay nothing.
Well, that just might be a fortuitous circumstance. I mean, if you were starting your community, yes, but we aren't.
So let me ask, just, I mean, maybe you said this, but if you got state aid for whatever project, and does it have to go, does that state aid money, can that go in a kitty to pay down the overall? Or like if it was for a certain road, we got state aid for a certain road, can that be, that money
See,
be
at
put
one
in
time,
for?
my understanding was that if South Ash was a state aid road and you filed for that, you had to do that project. But if that road was already been done, as we had at one time, all the state aid roads in the city were done, you could still file for state aid and then it could go to the different projects. That's my understanding.
So then basically somebody that had a state aid road, they weren't getting assessed because
They weren't prior to, but then to make it a little more equitable, it's like, okay, why don't we all pay $40?
Yeah.
And then we'll all split the rest of it.
Then the state aid that comes in, it gets put to all the projects.
Off of that, and then you split what you got left, yeah. So I mean,
We only get reimbursed for state aid funds when we improve a state aid project, but they come in down the road and we've already funded them from reserves or whatnot. So when $600,000 comes back in from South Ash, let's just say, it goes into 227 and then we can use it in the future for what it's not reserved for a state aid
So that
road
being
at
said,
that
even if
point.
somebody lives on a state aid road, what Wayne is saying, they get assessed the same as anybody else who isn't on a state aid road and that kinda.
They still get assessed the $40, yeah. Well, it depends on if it's mill. If it's a mill overlay, it's
Right.
15, la-di-da, yeah.
They get assessed to whatever that rate is for
Right.
what we do.
Yep.
and then we just gotta keep up to the deficit amount, whether it be reimbursed through state aid or through taxes.
Well, that's what concerns me, is when we have to do it through taxes and raising the levy, you know, and then the departments come to us and then this is what I need to run my department. And then say, holy cow, that's a huge number. So now we're asking these departments to cut again when we're trying to have them compensate because we didn't do the right thing on the collecting the assessments correctly, maybe.
On the front end, you
Yeah.
didn't do what was appropriate. You'll be making it up on the back end with increasing your
Right.
levy. And that would be something that, if you're aware of it, you can try to
So
explain that to Joe.
then I would submit if we go with what Wayne is saying, I'm good with that, but then we just have to say, okay, this is automatic. This shortfall is automatic and no matter what the levy is.
Okay, so what you can do then is you can cut back on the number of roads that you're gonna improve the next year,
Now,
right?
but there is, I think Brandon's talked about it in the past, if you do an overlay, it has a certain life. And if you don't assess for what it cost you, you'll end up in a deficit when it needs to be redone again, and you won't have the money. So you'll either choose to make a big assessment, or you'll choose to let the road go past its natural life. Is that a fair statement, Brandon?
Yeah, there's 50 miles approximately of city streets. 10 of those are state aid roads. So 40 miles of our local roads have to be locally funded. So, you know, the average lifespan is 30 years, but, you know, maybe some of the lower traffic, we might get a little bit more out of them. So that's why I was shooting for, I believe if we redid the 40 miles of local projects, I think we would have to do around 5,000 feet a year, which is double of what I have proposed here. So it's a juggling act trying to figure out, you know, I don't know why Pat stayed away from the Woods Edition, but I can't fix it overnight either. So it's, you know, just to me, it would be recepted from the community, probably easier if there was a base, let's say a base 50 on the 50% of it would go on the water bill and 50% of it would go on the property taxes. Then the property owner has equal stake as the tenant. And then if the property owner is the tenant, they pay the full boat, they're living there. You know, the 1% of a levy is only $25,000. If you're talking at picking up $400,000, you're talking about a 20% levy next year without even any other consideration for the rest of the city. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. I mean, I can support like what Wayne is saying, like, don't raise the assessment, but the city's gotta come up in taxes to pay for the rest.
But they're still coming up with, we're still having to come up with money now regardless.
Whether
Wayne
you
says-
tax me or whether you put it on my water bill or whatever you do, somebody's paying for that road.
Right.
Right.
By doing the water bill and property tax though, that spreads the money, correct? Versus the individuals paying the assessment.
It just spreads the amount of time over which you have to pay it and the frequency.
Well, what you're saying though is now you're gonna get some renters that are gonna get in on the fun.
Yeah, and I mean, it probably the easiest way to look at it is having it on the water bill and the property taxes takes a 10-year assessment and extends it to 30 years at the end of the day. I mean, it's gonna be, they're not gonna have to take the 10-year assessment that won't have to pay for 20 years. It'll be lower over the full 30-year period. But I think if we're not gonna try and get to that 30% assessment, I believe the base on the water bill and property taxes will be, I think that's the best second option to the funding issue. Then you're not trying to make it up with just the levy alone.
And really what you're weighing is, should a property owner pay for 30%, not even a third, of the roadway that runs in front of his or her home? And then how you spread that 30% is up to you, but that's really what's being asked or talked about. I mean, it could be 25%, it could be 30, but that's what you're asking yourself. What is an appropriate percentage, if any, for a property owner to pay for a road which runs in front of or down the side street?
And that's what I'm saying, that before we didn't have percentage, we had this $40 or $15. If you had that, and according to the way things have gone, you say that increased and that doubled. And I'm saying, well, that sucks, but okay, I guess it doubles. I'm still at $80. Then if we can find a way to finance the rest of that with everybody, then you've kind of spread the hurt around a little bit, and it'd be a lot easier pill to swallow than saying you're getting the $123
Well,
and figure it out.
For consistency, you would use a percentage,
Yeah,
Right.
not a dollar
What's the
amount.
percentage
So you'd
be
put the percentage into play
to
now.
get it into like $80, but like Wayne just saying, like,
Yeah, that's a 20% assessment.
20% assessment, yeah, instead of 11. So it doubled the assessment, but now it's at that and it'll increase itself.
And that makes the resolution consistent over time.
Right.
Because anyone who pays that percentage, whether it be now or in the future, it's a percentage of the cost, which the city had nothing really to do with, as opposed to setting a flat dollar amount, which the city has everything to do with.
so then, I can't remember, I don't know if we ever finalized it, if it's a state aid road, can that, whatever we get for that state aid road, can that just go into the
That'll go to the reserve, the 227 or
So-
whatever, right there.
so then
Because
no
you
matter
get
if
it
you're, no
after
matter,
It's a
you've done the
reimbursement.
project.
Right.
Is that correct?
so then no matter if a person lives on a state aid road or not, he's still gonna be assessed the 20%. We're talking, the state aid funds will come back in at whenever they get there, would go into 227. That money would help pay for the shortfall, and then we,
I believe that's how it works right now.
Yeah.
Well,
So
there's
people
the
who
guys
live on
can
state aid
answer.
roads are
I
being
thought-
assessed? Okay.
I thought you said people on a state aid road sometime didn't.
Prior to all
Prior.
this.
Oh,
They didn't. That's how they changed this, is
Okay.
that they're paying their fair share, and then we take it out to the rest of it.
And
Everybody's paying for it.
just so we're clear, the 227 reserve right now, do we know that fund balance?
I think that was around the 670,000.
That's at 672, 689?
That's not the exact balance. That's,
close to
it's
it.
very
Okay.
close.
Sure. And so what you're looking at is the first time sets where that balance will go down to. If you set it at 20% or 30% or, is that correct? If you set it at 20%, you will use 503,000 out of the 670.
And so the next year, that's all you have left in reserves?
You have 100,000 left in reserves. in
So
the
it's not
227.
necessarily a sustainable way of managing that.
Correct.
And,
You're
well,
gonna get
and what,
your LGA back in there, and then you're gonna also get the state dollars in again too.
yeah, so the
you know,
LGA will go
it
back in there and the state aid fund, whatever we got, will go into there too then,
As
right?
long as you keep that as a policy.
Right.
But even if we like go off of what this last year's LGA and state funding is, it's not gonna cover another
That's
year
already
of similar.
calculated into the equation. So, I mean, even though it's coming back in, you're already counting on it
To do what you just did.
I mean, basically, if we get, we'll just say our reserve balance down to 100,000, and you do 2,500, or, well, this is 2,700 feet. If you do 2,700 feet the next year, and you only bring in 300,000 of state aid, let's just say, you're gonna be in the red 200,000 in your 227 fund.
That's assuming the costs stay the same.
Right.
I know
Are
it
these-
changes.
Are these like static amounts of money that we get from the state, or is this gonna change?
It fluctuates a
Yeah.
little bit.
So, I mean,
Is
we
there-
can't
is there
even
a-
guarantee this.
Can you say a rough average of what we get from state aid each year?
Was it around 150,000 about?
That would, the 154 is the guaranteed maintenance. Yeah, and then I would say, I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000 above that. Yeah. Yeah. But that goes into the state account, and we only get reimbursed once we do an actual state aid road. So, you know, when we do our federal projects, a lot of that money comes back in, because those are all on state aid roads.
So let's just say this for example, what if we take an average, go back for state aid for last 5-10 years, let's just say, and let's just count on that per se, that's gonna go into the 227. And then let's just say we wanna keep it at 0. Let's just say we're starting at 0, and when we get the roads done, we get the state aid coming in, it's gonna be back to 0. What would the assessment, what do you think the assessment number would have to be then, the percentage?
Well, I mean, that's, so through the 30%, if you don't put any base on a water bill, I think that if we took about 300,000 from reserves every year, about that'll come back in. So if you guys wanted to do a 20% assessment, maybe we cut that water base and that tax base in half, do a base on the water bill of, we'll just say 350 and $40 on the taxes. You would be taking about 300,000 from reserves every year.
Now, when you say put it on the water bill, is that just for those people getting the road, or is that throughout the entire community?
It'd be a base bill, or so there'd be a
everyone.
base charge on every account, you know, 1,800 accounts.
So then instead of, would that be a percentage then each year? So then, instead of, you're talking a percentage then on the water bill, right? Not a dollar amount.
I have it figured as a dollar amount.
So why can't we figure a percentage? You know, if we're talking percentages here, because it's, if you stick to a dollar amount, that's what you're stuck with. You know,
Yeah.
instead of just going by a percent, then you know. I mean,
It'd be difficult.
does that make any sense? to
Yeah,
anybody?
we would almost have to, you know, reevaluate it on an annual basis. It's just tricky with a water bill, because, you know, if you want it to be equally distributed, you know, some water bills are $100 because they got 6 kids and some are
Well,
retired.
still, I mean,
Or some got 4
that's the
meters.
reason probably why we're in this situation is because we don't look at this type of stuff yearly. We let it sit for 10 years, 15 years or whatever, and now we're like, holy crap, we gotta double or triple it because we haven't been doing our jobs each year to keep up with the times. I mean,
I would have to give it some thought on. I don't think it can't be done. It's just gonna be kind of tricky on the water bill. You know, we talked about, you know, we made those adjustments on the water bills already this year, and we've talked about doing like an annual, you know, if the annual inflation is 1.5%, we just do the same to the water bill to keep it going, so we don't have to do a 20% adjustment 10 years down the road. So, you know, if you did that and you had it set at your base dollar, then it would go up the general inflation with it. So I guess that would be the easiest way to make sure that it maintains itself.
I mean, I think we need to get something that's proactive like we're talking about here instead of, you know, we as council people come and go, and then who knows, the next time they come around to look at this thing, it's like 10 years down the road again, and here we are, like, holy, we should have been doing this all the time. So I really want to go with a percentage, whatever percentage we increase, and I also think the percentage needs to be on whatever percent we agree on the.
But I think at a time, we went by what we were gonna get from state aid, which they're saying now is 0. That made a big difference. You're looking at how much of a increase we had with the cost of living and everything else, or, you know, inflation, and it all's hitting right now. So, I mean, you're right, we're looking, but that's what we're doing now, is we're looking at what's happened and trying to move forward in a responsible way that people will think that, you know, we're looking into the future too. It's not just, we're not just trying to get this set for today. It's like, okay, going forward, if we keep moving it up, it's just like when we did the taxes, and we didn't want to go up more than 2%, 3%. All of a sudden, 10 years later, by George, you know, look at this, we're way behind the 8 ball.
Right.
And you're blaming it on a new council, you know? So you're right. I mean, if we could have them sit down, massage these numbers a little bit more. I really don't like the idea of the 30%. That anything over $100 per foot is killer. And I mean, I know it's high because everything's gone up, but if we could do that and see with the increase on your water and with we're getting, you know, and if you have to 1 year back up and do 200 less feet.
Well, Ashley, do you know the percent when we do these special assessments for these, what percent of the people pay it all up front versus those that take the 10 years to pay off all the assessments?
It just depends on the project again, and like I said, I'm just looking at the numbers here, and with our highest amount at $3,000 or higher, it's over a 10-year.
And those payments over those 10 years are going back into this improvement fund?
The 227.
Yes.
Well, maybe it would be helpful just to figure out a scenario of what, so it's paid on, the people that take over 10 years is paid on their property taxes once a year, right? So would it, maybe it would be helpful for us to I don't know if there's a way to take an average or maybe take a high assessment on a particular situation, and how much would somebody, occupant A, have to pay each year for 10 years to, I mean, maybe if there was a number there, if it's $100 a year for 10 years, I mean, that's cost of living in a community. But if it's like $1,000 a year for 10 years, well, that's a whole different discussion. I mean, so,
Well, most people, like he said, you know, down in Ward 4, probably got a 50 to 75 foot lot.
yeah,
And when you get up on the new end, what you're just doing up there, a lot of them are 150 to 200-foot lots. So, I mean, you're gonna see that part of it right there for guys paying it back instead of at $100. Instead of being $5,000 here, it could be up to 100 and, up to 15 grand here, which divided by 10, there you go.
Well, with your numbers, Ashley, you could probably put something together to show a high, a medium, and a low.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful, so when we're discussing it, it kind of hits home when we're seeing what an actual assessment of over 10 years for a particular project might be.
Like a
And then maybe we
50-foot
could- Then maybe we
lot.
could fluctuate the numbers based on those examples. Say, okay, 20%, 30%, this is what it would be. I mean, I don't know.
So we just did the project on First Avenue North, and there was a 50-foot lot, and it was $2,000 over a 6-year period.
Over how many?
A 6-year period at 3% interest rate.
Yeah, because there is interest, so you'd be paying like $350 roughly a year.
But if you, like, I had calculated earlier, the 123, so the 30% assessment on a 50-foot lot is like $6,500. So over 10 years, just say $650 a year.
Plus interest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's all cash.
yeah,
It's all
I
gotta
get it.
come
I
from
feel-
somewhere.
I feel but, we're running a city and we just can't, we have to do what's right for the city as a whole. We just can't, take it, go in the hole every year.
But you gotta look at it too, not every house is worth the same, not every family makes the same kind of income. The size of the family is different, it all plays out different for some hardships now. That's also allowed in there, isn't there a hardship case in there that they can put that against the house for when it's sold to it sometime if they can't afford that?
Well, the special stay with the property.
Right, and if they can't afford to pay them, they can pay the interest or whatever. I thought there was something.
level that they would,
I mean, it's certainly something you can check out, but the point is, it doesn't eliminate it.
No, but
It
you don't
just
wanna kick some.
Kicks the can down the
Yeah,
road.
I mean,
you don't wanna kick somebody out of their house.
No, exactly, but
I'm fine with having a discussion of, setting the assessment at whatever we think and then having the rest of the community chip in however that's gonna be however we do that, I'm up for that. It's just that we can't continue to do what we've been doing over the past few years of shorting our department heads from doing what they want to do to keep their departments going because we don't want to raise the levy as much as we should.
Right, we're paying for our own sins right now, I mean, is what
I
it
know.
amounts to,
Yeah.
and it's just difficult that it's all cashing in at the same time.
I know.
yeah.
But I mean, it's a reality, something we're gonna have to face. I mean, do you want to have roads? Do you want to have,
Right.
garbage collection? I mean, so people understand, and you're gonna catch some heat for a bit, but if you can keep it as equal as possible, I found that there's not quite so much yipe. And if I've got a $250,000 home and you got a $50,000 home, we're paying the same thing now for this road. It's not, over the size of your house. That's a little tough, but when you're doing your taxes, it's going by your property, the amount of your taxable amount on your house. So there's equity,
Right.
a little
So-
bit easier
So
there.
are we, when does this have to, are we discussing this more? Are you coming back to the table with some, I think right now we're thinking at 20% and the rest, and whatever the other percent goes on the water bill, right? Is that where?
If that
So-
works.
Technically then, between the 20 and 30%, we're trying to make up $187,549, correct?
So what now?
The difference
The
between
difference
20%
between us
and
charging the
30%.
20 and the 30
Okay,
is 187,549.
yeah.
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 So we have to find that money somewhere, or
Right.
have
So
that assessed
Brandon, what
somehow.
is the bottom line for when you believe this needs to be done?
I mean, I would like to, you know, if you're comfortable with the 20% and then me and Ryan kind of figuring out the bases where they need to be and coming with a recommendation for a water bill. I mean, my ideal world was we would probably, Ashley's probably not gonna like it, but have another Ways and Means next council and discuss it and then hopefully have, because we have to have a public hearing to
Yep.
adjust, so we'd probably call for the public hearing next council anyways. Discuss it at Ways and Means and then finalize it after the public hearing. That's
So
about
there's
as-
4 weeks,
So then,
essentially.
Are we okay with that? You know the timelines better than me,
I mean,
Ashley.
again, without having to hash it out, the biggest thing is getting publication out to the homeowners, publishing out to the homeowners, and if we're gonna put it on a water bill, we do have to hold a public hearing on that as well.
Yeah.
It is something to do, we have to publish that and have a timeline.
Yeah, I mean, that is what it is, and we have to follow the proper protocol, and if we're out a couple months, it is what
But
it
now, are
is,
these
but-
exact projects gonna stay? I mean, is there no debate on those? Is that a one man's opinion and
Well,
that's
these are
what you go by?
recommendations from the Public Works Director for projects to be
Right.
done by the criteria that was used.
Exactly. I'm just saying, personally, I don't agree with the streets that were picked here. Guthrie Street, you know, those are not even in that bad a shape. There's nobody living on them hardly right yet. But yet you've got roads down in the Woods Edition that look like they've gone through the demilitarized zone. You know, and we haven't fixed them and
so then, I mean,
But that's kind of like having it both ways. You know, do the Woods want them done? If they do, they gotta pay for them.
Right.
And I don't know what Brandon criteria he's used, but he's used criteria to make these selections.
But I've heard people from the Woods yiping for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
So with the Woods Edition though, I mean, are we gonna keep the streets the same width? Is homeowners down there willing to give up sidewalk on one side and lose a row of trees if they want a wider road? I mean, right now, you know, you get cars on both sides,
I think they'd like a smooth road with a curb on it, Dale, and they'd be happy as hell.
so.
I know
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
narrow.
it sounds like we're avoiding the Woods edition just because, we're discussing whether the road should be wide enough. Let's just make the street smooth.
Isn't it
They'd
deeper
probably
than
take
that, though?
just an overlay and do something. I mean,
Well,
it's just,
it's reconstruction every street down there.
I know.
Yeah, and also the infrastructure of the water pipes.
And that's, you know, I have it broke down to just the street, but if you looked at the, Rich's engineer estimate, Houston Avenue was about 800,000. Because 130 of that was the water main replacement underneath it. So, you know, I was trying to pick a happy medium here, you know, that the Herkenhoff edition, I think he sold all his lots out there. We have lots out in the Pirate 60 that have a water issue that I wouldn't feel comfortable advising anybody to build a house out there right now. Kevin Ross has sold, I believe, all of his lots on Fifth Avenue South now, and the only way he got those houses there was when council supported a road on Fifth Avenue South. And he said that the conversation with council when they approved Fifth Avenue South to get blacktopped was once he had that addition or that street developed, that we would develop Euclid Avenue, and that's why I put Euclid Avenue on this year's plan. You know, and then you have Guthrie that is gravel between those new roads. You know, we could lose those gravel, and you know, if you got rid of Guthrie on there, you come up with 400,000, you could do maybe another 400 feet in the woods addition. There's about 10,000 feet of streets in the woods addition that need to be reconstructed if we're gonna do the whole addition, so.
And the blacktop on that, that we're gonna have to take that ourselves and eat the whole thing
Yeah,
on that alleyway. That could probably wait and use crushed concrete to try to stop the erosion on that, but,
yeah,
you know, there's other things, and that's what, you know, the guy that talked to me said they did it on the east side, and that it's worked. And so, I mean, there's just some things, I don't know, personally, I just would like to go over and sit down. This is where we used to have street committee meetings. Asked for input and all this. It makes it a lot tougher on you now, I know that.
yeah.
Well, and the state right now too, you know, with what, if it goes through the House and the Senate, there's gonna be dollars for street repair and construction that Carrie and I are going to go after dollars to try and help us with the woods addition, since it is such a large project.
Is that part of the overall infrastructure bills that are
Yeah,
coming out?
there is several different ones going through right now that we could tap in that fit our city's needs a lot.
Okay.
Digging into the bonding for roads, if you do bond for street improvements, the minimum assessment is 30%, so just.
And you're legally bound to do the 30%. You don't have a choice.
But at the same time, everybody's paying for it.
Yeah.
So consensus is what, 20%?
Or do you want to come back? I mean.
Or do you wanna
is that-
come
Come back and see
online?
some numbers if you could do it,
back,
I
I
mean,
think.
and if it's legal to do, if it's what we gotta do, I mean, no lawyer, you know, of
No
what
charge.
you recommend and.
I think we know that Brandon's recommend 30%. That's,
I mean, after he's heard what we've said. I'm hoping he's taking this under consideration.
No, but I think what, you know, and I'm not gonna put words in Brandon's mouth, he's used criteria, he's made an analysis of this, he's looked at other cities, he knows what the bonding bills are. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but you've said you believe it's in the best interest of the city and the best policy would be 30%. Not a dollar number, but 30%. Is that fair?
Yeah, but, you know, if the 20% to me is acceptable, if we wanna pair it with the water bill, and I think if me and Ryan if the consensus is 20%, we'll look at we'll get real in-depth in the MnDOT funding and get an average, and whatever we're bringing in average, and I believe it's about 300,000, we'll try and leave that as reserve draw every year, and then we'll just say 200,000 in base water bills, and so half on the water bill, half on the property
And we'll
tax.
have to see if that's legally permissible and how we do that.
Yep.
Brandon, if you
that
could,
would be a way to do what Wayne is suggesting, where the whole city would be in on
A portion.
the portion of all streets that.
And that would be every year. And the resolution could either be yearly, maybe it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I that's why I think we, going forward, instead of setting flat dollar amounts, we just need to go on a percentage basis. We just are never that out of whack.
We've kind of learned a lesson this year, though, of what it happens when you don't address the issue.
Yeah.
With the taxes going crazy, with all the different fees that you've just worked and reworked for rentals or whatever. I mean, if they're addressed every year, it's fresh in your mind, you know how you did, you know how that year went. You know, and then you can go from there. So I just think that maybe a little more on our side to try and, as councilman, to try and get more info and more input annually, so that we're not stressing him out like that to what's gonna happen.
But this is what you're elected to do, this discussion.
Right?
I bet this hasn't occurred in your memory.
Not for a long time.
This is the discussion that needs to happen. This is what you're here for, to make decisions on behalf of everybody else. And it's easy to.
Brandon, if you could make a,
$12, boom, you're gone.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's
if
how
you can hear me.
decisions have been made. Here's what we're giving you, go see what you can do with it.
Right.
This council is talking about, this is what we need to do, so how do we get that done?
Exactly.
That's what council people do.
Can we,
Brandon, can I make
do
a comment?
sales tax for roads?
Can I make a comment?
You can do a sales tax and we could put the money towards roads, yes.
So, I mean, you know, you got people out of town that drive our roads and they're using them. They're going to Walmart, they're going to wherever. I don't
I do
know.
have the numbers for a quarter and a half sales tax.
But, you know, the trouble is that's gotta be approved by the state though.
Well, and that's kind of your state aid. Your state aid designated roads are your higher traffic roads, and that's kind
Okay.
of where the state aid comes into, so.
All right.
I will say though, I thought, I had been talking to a mayor of another town, and I thought that they had done like a 0.5% sales tax to fund their pool. So I do wonder if there is,
Well, they've got all
Grand
kinds of
Forks
different
has done
ones
it
that you
too
can
for
put a
Nicholas
sales
Harris.
tax in for so long, you gotta have a sunset on it and what
Sure.
it's for. Supposed to be only
Well,
used
that's,
for that.
that's certainly something worth discussing if there is a way to maybe have an overall sales tax instead of,
But then
Putting it
your
on a water
state aid
bill.
funding goes down, correct? Is that what you're saying, Brandon?
No, I was just saying the state aid funds is intended, that it's designated because it's a higher traffic road that doesn't have just local traffic on it. So you're getting the state tax funds from the gas tax at the end of the day coming back for that. It wouldn't reduce it, but I was just saying that that's kind of where the state aid funding came from.
putting it on a water bill is a tax. I mean, what's the difference if we just have a flat tax versus put it on, I mean, making people pay for stuff as your tax?
Well, because then it becomes a user type thing where, okay, if you don't wanna pay as much, don't use as much. So you can fluctuate yours. If you put it on as a drop dead, that's what it's gonna cost
Can
you.
we find out for this meeting if that is even a discussion worth having? If it's,
Yeah, I've got the numbers for a 1.25 cents.
I mean, is it legal and how would that special tax work then to fund our,
Yeah, it's something we need to involve our attorney on because you have to.
not you, the other one, the new guy.
I'm sure if we can get in, if we call the League of Minnesota Cities,
Yeah,
I'm
we can
sure
do
other
that
cities
without-
have done it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's worth having that discussion.
So what I'm hearing from you for our assignment is, one, take a look at the 20%, take a look at the 30%, take a look to see if we can do it on the water bill and the taxes, and then can we impose a sales tax generally and specifically?
Yes.
And are you still wanting Ashley to give you high, medium, and low percent?
Yeah, I think that would help. I think that would help us as when we're making,
Is that a lot of work, Ashley, to take the last projects and dollars and?
Just speak freely.
A lot of work.
Well, you get the big bucks.
Because how we did it in the previous ones were broke up individually, but it can be done. With extra time.
Well, you'll spend some time, Brandon and I, then we'll put the numbers together.
So do you guys have your directive?
It's on the tape, Ashley will type it out. And
All right.
We'll review it.
All right.
Football's over now, so we got extra time.
Got marching orders, we good? Okay, we are
Okay.
adjourned.
Get the election out of the way to